A cosmic encounter. Elliot adjusted the straps of his gear as the shuttle descended onto the rugged terrain of Zaloria. The landscape, a tapestry of luminescent flora and undulating hills, stretched endlessly before him. He was here to study these bioluminescent plants, but the thrill of potential unknown discoveries was what truly fueled his spirit. As the shuttle's doors opened with a hiss, Elliot stepped out, taking in the cool, crisp air. The planet's atmosphere was breathable, a rare find in the cosmos. He started setting up his mobile lab with practiced ease, his hands moving methodically. "Beautiful, isn't it?" remarked a voice behind him. Elliot turned to see his colleague, Luca, approaching with a smile. Luca was an exobiologist with an eye for geological formations. "It's more than that," Elliot replied, looking around with awe. "It's otherworldly." As they unpacked their equipment, a subtle movement caught Elliot's eye. Not far from where they were, the ground seemed to shimmer and then stabilize. Curious, he signaled Luca. "Did you see that?" Elliot asked, nodding towards the spot. Luca peered in the direction. "I didn't catch it." "What was it?" "Something. I'm not sure. Let's check it out." The two made their way to the location, their steps cautious on the unfamiliar ground. As they neared, the air around them vibrated subtly, the energy of the planet palpable. Suddenly, a figure materialized in front of them. It was unlike any life form they had documented before. Humanoid but with skin that reflected the environment, the creature stood there, observing them. "Hello," Elliot said slowly, wondering if it understood him. He extended his hand in a universal greeting. The creature tilted its head, then mirrored his action, extending its hand. Its touch was light, almost ethereal. "I'm Elliot, and this is Luca," Elliot introduced, pointing between them. "I am Mira," the creature responded, its voice a melodic echo that resonated in the air. "You are not from Zaloria." "We're here to learn," Luca added, his tone respectful. "About your planet, the plants, everything." Mira nodded. Many cycles since visitors came with open hearts. "Follow, please." Elliot and Luca exchanged glances, excitement mingling with a dash of nervousness. Following Mira, they moved deeper into the landscape. As they walked, Mira began to explain. "Our flora is connected, a network of life. You see lights? They communicate, share energy, protect each other." Elliot was fascinated. "It's like a natural internet," he mused aloud, taking notes. "Yes, an internet of life," Mira agreed, smiling with a sparkle in her eyes. They stopped by a large plant that pulsed with a deep blue light. Mira placed her hands on it, and the plant responded by intensifying its glow. "This is a Calirian plant," she explained. "Healer, teacher. Can it communicate with us?" Luca asked, intrigued. "In a way," Mira replied. "Through feelings, impressions. Close your eyes. Feel it." Elliot and Luca did as instructed, closing their eyes. The plant's energy pulsed against their palms, a warm and comforting presence that seemed to seep into their very beings. When they opened their eyes, both felt a profound sense of peace. "This is incredible," Elliot whispered, his voice full of wonder. Mira smiled. "There is much to show you, Elliot, Luca. Zaloria welcomes you." As they continued their exploration, Elliot felt a surge of gratitude for this opportunity. Here, on this distant planet, under the watchful eyes of the cosmos, they were about to embark on the greatest adventure of their lives. Chapter 2. Linguistic Bridges. Under the gentle glow of Zaloria's twin moons, Elliot, Luca, and Mira gathered around a holographic display of the planet's complex ecosystem. The air was filled with the soft hum of nocturnal creatures, adding an otherworldly ambience to their meeting. Each color you see represents a different form of plant life, and these lines here, Elliot pointed at the intertwining light trails on the display, show how they communicate chemically and electrically. Luca, ever the geologist, was more interested in the physical landscape that supported such biodiversity. And the terrain. It must play a significant part in their distribution and health, he mused aloud. Yes, Mira confirmed. The land nurtures them, shapes them. Mountains shield, valleys nurture. Elliot turned to Mira, his mind buzzing with questions. How do you fit into this network, Mira? Can you interact with it directly? Mira nodded, her eyes reflecting the display's light. We can connect. Listen. Would you like to see how? Both men nodded, their curiosity piqued. Mira led them outside, where the air was cool and fresh, and walked up to a towering tree that shimmered with a silver light. She placed her palms against its bark, closing her eyes. Watch, she instructed. As they observed, the area around Mira's hands began to glow brighter, and the light slowly spread across the tree's surface. Elliot and Luca looked on in awe, witnessing a silent conversation made of light. Elliot was the first to speak. It's like you're part of the tree. In a way, I am, Mira replied, her voice soft. We share our existence. Now, you try. Hesitant but intrigued, Elliot stepped forward and imitated Mira's earlier gesture. At first, nothing happened, and he shot a doubtful look at Luca, who encouraged him with a nod. Focus on the connection, not the effect, Mira advised gently. Taking a deep breath, Elliot closed his eyes and tried to clear his mind, focusing solely on the tree and the life it harbored. Slowly, a warmth built up under his palms, and a faint light began to emanate from where his hands touched the tree. It's working, Elliot. You're doing it, Luca exclaimed, his voice a mixture of surprise and excitement. Elliot opened his eyes and saw the light. I can feel it. It's like it's talking, or at least acknowledging me. Mira smiled. You are listening now, not just hearing. They spent the next few hours experimenting with different plants, Mira guiding them through the process of making connections. The communication was not made of words or sounds, but of feelings and impressions that left them both deeply moved. As the night deepened, they returned to their camp, minds full of wonder. Over a modest meal, they discussed their plans. We need to document everything, Luca said, his thoughts already on their research. The interactions, the responses, everything, and we should try to learn their form of communication, Elliot added. Imagine what we could learn about the planet, the ecosystem, and maybe even about ourselves. Mira listened, her expression thoughtful. There is much to share, and much to learn. We can bridge our worlds. As the three of them sat there, a sense of purpose united them. They were no longer just visitors on Zaloria. They were learners, witnesses to a profound exchange between species and planets. Their conversation continued late into the night, each moment of understanding building a stronger bridge between human and Zalorian, between Earth and the stars. Chapter 3. The Rituals of Touch. Elliot and Luca sat under the expansive canopy of a Varentis tree, its leaves a vibrant mosaic of colors, each shade a different reaction to their touch. The early morning light filtered through, casting a kaleidoscope of hues on their equipment scattered around. Mira approached them with a serene smile. Her presence always seemed to harmonize with the natural surroundings. Today we share rituals, she announced, her voice echoing the calm of the dawn. Luca looked up, intrigued. Rituals? Like ceremonies? Yes, Mira replied. Ways we honor life here. But first, you share yours. How do humans celebrate? Elliot thought for a moment, then chuckled. Well, we have quite a few. Birthdays, weddings, holidays. Each has its own way of marking important events with food, music, sometimes dance. Music and dance, Mira repeated, her eyes lighting up. These are universal joys. Please, show me. Luca glanced at Elliot with a playful smirk. Go on, show her a dance. Elliot stood, slightly embarrassed but willing. He extended his hand as if asking for a dance partner, a motion Mira recognized. She stepped forward, accepting. As Elliot guided her through a simple dance step, Luca pulled up a song on his device, a soft, melodious tune that seemed fitting for Zaloria's tranquil environment. The two moved awkwardly at first, but soon found a rhythm, laughing as they swayed and stepped. When the music ended, Mira clapped her hands delightedly. Your turn now, Elliot said, still catching his breath. Mira nodded and gestured for them to follow her to a nearby clearing where the ground was soft and covered in a carpet of tiny luminescent plants. Here we make touch, she explained. With ground, with sky. She took a deep breath and knelt, pressing her hands into the soil. The plants dimmed, then slowly began to glow brighter as she touched them. Feel, she invited. Elliot and Luca joined her, kneeling and placing their hands on the ground. The sensation was unlike anything they had felt before. The ground seemed to pulse with life, responding to their touch with a warm glow. This is how we thank the planet, Mira said softly. We connect, show gratitude. Moved by the simplicity and depth of the gesture, Elliot felt a profound connection to this alien land. It's beautiful, Mira. Thank you for sharing this. The ritual continued with Mira leading them in a series of touches, to plants, rocks, even the air around them, each element responding in its unique way. The men learned that every touch was a communication, an expression of unity and respect for nature. As the day progressed, they shared more of their customs with Mira, who absorbed each detail with keen interest. Luca shared stories of Earth's mountains and rivers, while Elliot described the vast oceans and the creatures within them. My world, too, has waters, Mira shared, deep and wide. You will see soon. Their exchange of knowledge and rituals was not just about learning, but about building a deep, mutual respect. It was a day of connection, not only to each other but to the world around them. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the land, the three of them sat back under the Varentis tree, feeling a contented exhaustion. The rituals of touch had given them a new understanding, not just of Zalorian culture, but of the intimacy and sacredness of physical connection. We have more to learn from each other, more to explore, Mira said, a hint of excitement in her voice. Elliot nodded, his thoughts echoing hers. Yes, and I'm looking forward to every moment. Their day of shared rituals concluded with a quiet dinner, each flavor a reminder of the diverse and wondrous planet that was slowly becoming less alien to them. The bonds they forged transcended words, grounded in the universal language of experience and touch. Chapter 4. Unveiling the Essence. The next morning found Elliot and Luca setting up sensitive audio equipment under the guidance of Mira. Today, they aimed to capture the subtle sounds of Zaloria's ecosystem, a symphony unheard by human ears until now. Each sound has a meaning, a life, Mira explained as she adjusted one of the microphones delicately. Listen deeply. Luca was handling another device, but paused to look up. We're used to visual data, but this, listening, will be a new experience. Elliot nodded, his hands busy with cables. It's more intimate, isn't it? Like we're really tuning into the planet's heartbeat. As they finished the setup, Mira invited them to a special place. To understand fully, come with me. You must experience the great chorus. Intrigued, the men followed her through a densely wooded area until they reached a vast clearing. Here the trees were taller, and the air vibrated with a rich tapestry of sounds. This is where we come to connect deeply with our world, Mira said, her voice almost a whisper in reverence. Elliot and Luca donned headphones linked to their recording equipment, and the immediate amplification of the natural chorus around them was overwhelming. They could hear the rustle of leaves, the whisper of the wind, and deeper, more resonant sounds they couldn't identify. "It's like the trees are singing," Luca murmured, his eyes wide with wonder. Elliot adjusted his own headphones, tuning into different frequencies. "There's a pattern, almost like a language." Mira smiled at their reactions. "It is a language, if you know how to listen." She then led them to the center of the clearing, where the sounds intensified. Here, she began to sing in a clear, melodic voice. The response from the environment was immediate. The air thrummed with a harmonious reply from the surrounding flora. Elliot looked at Luca, both stunned. Her voice. It's like it's part of the air itself. Luca, ever the scientist, was trying to analyze the situation. "There's a frequency to her voice that seems to resonate perfectly with." He trailed off, unsure how to describe it. "It's harmony," Elliot concluded. "Pure harmony." Encouraged by their interest, Mira explained, "Our people believe that every life, every existence, contributes to the whole. We sing to honor that connection, and the planet sings back to us." Moved by the depth of this interaction, Elliot felt a surge of inspiration. "Would you teach us? I mean, could we try to sing?" Mira nodded eagerly. "Of course. Follow my tone. Let go of your thoughts, and feel the music." The next hour was spent in vocal experimentation, with Mira patiently guiding their pitches and rhythms. Slowly, Elliot and Luca began to feel less like outsiders and more like participants in this ancient dialogue. As the sun began to set, coloring the sky with hues of orange and pink, they took off their headphones, sitting in a comfortable silence that spoke volumes of their shared experience. This day, Luca started, then paused, searching for the right words. "It's been enlightening," Elliot agreed, his mind still resonating with the sounds of the clearing. "It's changed the way I perceive communication, not just through words, but through presence and sound." Mira, pleased with their progress, suggested, "Let's return tomorrow. There is more to share, more to blend our voices with the world." As they packed up their equipment and made their way back to the camp, the echoes of the great chorus lingered with them, a reminder of the day's profound connection and the new understanding they were building with every shared moment on Zaloria. Chapter 5. A Symphony of Senses. Elliot, Luca, and Mira gathered once again at the edge of a luminescent forest as dusk settled over Zaloria. The air was charged with the coolness of an approaching night, and the sky painted a gradient from peach to deep violet. Tonight was not about sounds or sights, but about the other senses that often went unnoticed. We often overlook the importance of touch, taste, and smell in understanding a world, Mira said as she led them through a pathway lit by glowing plants. Tonight, we explore these. Luca, who had always been more visually oriented in his research, was curious. How do we do that? By experiencing Zaloria as a living being, through all our senses. We start with touch, Mira explained, stopping beside a large, smooth rock that emitted a soft blue light. Place your hands here, close your eyes, and just feel. Elliot and Luca complied, pressing their palms against the cool surface. The rock's gentle pulsation was surprising, a rhythmic beat like a heartbeat. "It's alive?" Luca asked, eyes still closed, feeling the vibrations. "In a way," Mira responded. "It's connected deeply with Zaloria's energy field. It responds to touch with warmth and pulse." Next, Mira handed them each a small, pearlescent fruit from a nearby bush. "Taste is next. This is a drolin fruit. It's safe for you." The men took cautious bites. The fruit exploded with flavor, sweet at first, then unraveling into complex layers of tart and savory. "Wow, that's unexpected," Elliot remarked, tasting another piece. "It changes the more you eat it." Zalorian plants often have adaptive flavors, part of their interaction with various species here, Mira explained. As they continued their nocturnal exploration, Mira encouraged them to inhale deeply near a cluster of small, delicate flowers. The scent was intoxicating, a blend of earthy and floral notes that seemed to calm their minds immediately. "This is the Ceylon blossom," Mira told them. "Its smell is used to soothe and heal. Breathing it aligns your body's rhythms with the planet." "I could stand here all night," Luca said, taking another deep breath. Elliot agreed, feeling unusually at peace. There's a tranquility to this that's hard to describe. Their final lesson in sensory connection was listening again, but this time, Mira instructed them to feel the sounds rather than just hear them. They sat in silence, the soft rustle of leaves and distant calls of nocturnal creatures creating a natural symphony. "Try to feel the sound waves as they reach you," Mira whispered. "Let them wash over you, through you." Closing their eyes, Elliot and Luca focused. Slowly, the individual sounds merged into a cohesive whole. It was as if they could feel each vibration traveling through the air, connecting them more deeply to Zaloria than ever before. After a long moment, they opened their eyes, sharing a look of mutual understanding and amazement. "This planet, it's alive in ways I hadn't imagined," Luca confessed, his usual skepticism replaced with wonder. Elliot nodded, his thoughts reflective. "And we're part of it, at least for now. It makes you think about our impact, our place in the universe." As they made their way back to the camp under the starlit sky, their conversation turned to the implications of their experiences. The connection to the planet was no longer just scientific but personal. "We're learning more than just alien biology," Elliot mused. "We're learning a new way to be human." Mira, walking beside them, smiled softly. "And perhaps I am learning a new way to be Zalorian, through your eyes." Their shared journey into the symphony of senses had not only brought them closer to understanding Zaloria, but also to each other, bridging worlds through the universal language of sensory experience. Chapter 6. The Bonds of the Unseen. As the Zalorian sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the vibrant landscape, Elliot, Luca, and Mira sat around a flickering campfire. The warmth of the fire was comforting as the temperature began to fall, and the trio wrapped themselves in light blankets provided by Mira, designed to reflect the body's warmth without overheating. Luca poked at the fire with a stick, watching the sparks fly up into the night sky. "It's hard to believe our time here is almost over," he said, a note of sadness in his voice. Elliot nodded, feeling a similar sentiment. "It feels like we've just started to understand this place, and now we have to leave." Mira, sitting between them, turned to look at each man in turn. "Your bodies will leave, but the bond we've formed, that can remain. Distance is only physical." Elliot smiled at her words. "I'd like to believe that. You've taught us so much, not just about Zaloria, but about a different way of seeing and interacting with the world." Luca, usually the more pragmatic of the two, found himself agreeing. "I've taken field notes, recorded data, but the real change is here," he said, tapping his chest. The conversation turned to their plans once they returned to Earth. Elliot shared his intention to write a comprehensive paper on the communicative ecosystems of Zaloria, hoping to integrate Mira's teachings about the sensory connections. "And I'll be working on the geological aspects," Luca added. "There's a lot to be said about how the physical structure of a planet can influence its biological processes." Mira listened intently, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "And I will continue to share this knowledge with others here, so that the understanding goes both ways." The night deepened, and they continued to talk, sharing stories of Earth and Zaloria, laughing and occasionally falling silent, lost in their thoughts. The fire crackled, a comfortable, familiar sound that reminded them of how elemental and universal the experience of gathering around a fire was. As the fire dwindled to glowing embers, Elliot looked around at the darkened landscape, feeling a profound connection to this alien world. I wish there was a way to keep this connection alive, to not just remember it, but to continue it. Mira reached into a small bag beside her and pulled out 3 small stones, each glowing faintly with an inner light. These are resonance stones. We use them to remember and connect with the energies of those we care about. She handed one to each of the men. As long as you have this, a part of Zaloria will be with you, and a part of you will remain here. Luca turned the stone over in his hand, watching it glow. It's like having a piece of this planet, he murmured. Elliot held his stone close, feeling its warmth. And a piece of this friendship. Their final night on Zaloria passed in reflective silence, each man contemplating the journey they had undergone. They had arrived as scientists, intent on study and observation, but they were leaving as changed men, their perspectives broadened and deepened by the experience. As dawn approached, the first hints of light coloring the eastern sky, they packed up their camp. The resonance stones were tucked safely away, small but powerful reminders of their time on Zaloria. Walking back to their shuttle, they took one last look at the landscape, the rising sun illuminating the world in hues of gold and green. They were leaving, but they were taking something invaluable with them, a new understanding, a new way of seeing the universe, and a bond that would stretch across the stars. Chapter 7. A Love Unbound. The early morning light filtered through the windows of the shuttle as it prepared for departure. Elliot and Luca were busy stowing away the last of their equipment, each movement bittersweet. Mira stood beside them, her expression a mix of sadness and gratitude. "It's strange," Elliot mused as he secured a storage bin. "I didn't expect to feel so attached to this place, he paused, looking over at Mira. "To us," Mira finished for him, her voice soft. Luca, closing up another compartment, added, "It's more than just an attachment. It's like we're leaving a part of ourselves behind." The 3 of them gathered at the viewing port, gazing out at the landscape of Zaloria one last time. The planet had given them more than just data and samples. It had changed them fundamentally. "I have something for you both," Mira said, reaching into her garment. She pulled out 2 small, intricately carved pendants, handing one to each man. "To remember and to come back, if you can." Elliot took the pendant, examining the fine details, a miniature of the Zalorian flora. "It's beautiful, Mira." "Thank you." Luca placed his around his neck immediately. "It's a promise, then, not just a memory." Their final preparations interrupted by the shuttle's soft warning chime, indicating imminent departure. Elliot turned to Mira. "This isn't goodbye, not really." Mira smiled, a warm yet sad expression. "No, it is not goodbye. It is, until next time." The shuttle's doors began to close, and Elliot reached out, taking Mira's hand in his. "Across stars and species," he said, the words heavy with meaning. Mira nodded, squeezing his hand. "A love unbound." As the doors sealed, Elliot and Luca strapped themselves into their seats. The shuttle vibrated gently as the engines warmed up, ready to ascend into the cosmos. Through the porthole, Mira's figure grew smaller, but her presence felt larger than ever. The shuttle lifted off, the familiar pull of departure tugging at their chests. Once they were in orbit, Elliot looked over at Luca. "Feels different, doesn't it? Leaving this time." "It does," Luca agreed, looking down at the pendant around his neck. "It's like we're taking a piece of Zaloria with us, not just in these pendants, but in us." Elliot nodded. "I'm thinking about the paper I'll write. It's not just going to be about the plant life or the ecosystem. It's about connection, about bridging worlds and understanding that love can be more expansive than we ever imagined. Luca turned to look at his friend. "You sound like a poet, not a scientist." "Maybe that's what Zaloria does to you," Elliot chuckled. "It makes you believe in the poetic." The shuttle continued its ascent, leaving the planet's atmosphere, the stars before them bright and clear. The journey back to Earth would be long, but both men felt that the journey ahead in their lives would be even longer, shaped by their experiences. "We'll share everything, right? The data, the stories?" Luca asked, pulling out his datapad to start organizing his notes. "Everything," Elliot affirmed. "We'll make sure everyone knows about Zaloria, about what we learned, about Mira, and about how our understanding of love has changed," Luca added. "Yes," Elliot said, staring into the vastness of space. "A love unbound by stars or species." As the shuttle sped on, Earth a distant point of light ahead, Elliot and Luca knew they were returning changed, their hearts and minds forever intertwined with a distant world and a love that transcended the known universe. Chapter 8. Star-crossed farewells. As the shuttle hurtled through the emptiness of space towards Earth, Elliot and Luca were deep in conversation, their voices low in the confined cabin. "I've been thinking about how we present our findings," Elliot said, his eyes scanning the data on his tablet. "It's not just about the scientific discoveries, but also about the interpersonal connections. How do we convey the depth of what we experienced?" Luca leaned back, pondering. "We tell it like it is, a narrative interwoven with data. We show the human side, our transformation, not just the environmental insights." "That's good," Elliot nodded. "We have to make them feel it, not just understand it." The discussion shifted to logistics as they planned their presentation to the International Exobiology Conference. They aimed to share not only their scientific findings, but also the profound personal impact of their journey. "We should start with the initial landing, the awe of the unknown," Luca suggested, tapping his chin thoughtfully. "And then introduce Mira early on," Elliot added. "She's central to everything we learned." The conversation was interrupted by the shuttle's pilot over the intercom, announcing the beginning of their re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. The familiar shudder of the shuttle as it met the outer edges of the atmosphere brought a sense of finality to their journey. Strapped in their seats, the men watched as the blue and green hues of Earth grew larger and more distinct. The reality of their return was setting in, mixed emotions of excitement and reluctance swirling within them. Once the shuttle landed and they disembarked, the cool air of the spaceport was a stark contrast to the warmth of Zaloria. They walked through the terminal, their steps unhurried. "Feels different, doesn't it? Coming back?" Luca asked, pulling his jacket closer. "It does," Elliot agreed. "Like we're the same, but not quite." Their first task back on Earth was to ensure the safe delivery of their samples and data to the research facility. As they handed over the sealed containers, Elliot felt a twinge of loss, as if he was leaving a part of himself behind. The next days were a blur of debriefings and meetings. Yet, amidst the hustle, they found moments to reflect on their experiences, often sharing meals where they discussed nothing but Zaloria. Finally, the day of their conference presentation arrived. Standing before a packed auditorium, Elliot and Luca shared their journey, the screen behind them filled with images of Zaloria's landscapes and its vibrant life forms. "When we first embarked on this mission, we expected to discover new species, to chart unknown territories," Elliot began, his voice steady. "What we didn't expect was to find a new understanding of connection, of unity across species and stars." Luca took over, detailing their scientific findings, but always linking back to the personal stories, to Mira, and to the lessons they learned about life's interconnectedness. The audience was captivated, their eyes wide as they took in the tales of Zaloria's communicative flora and the resonance stones, symbols of an unbreakable bond. As the presentation concluded, The room erupted in applause, the attendees moved by the blend of hard science and heartfelt narrative. Later, as Elliot and Luca collected their belongings from the stage, Elliot pulled out the resonance stone Mira had given him, its light faint but steady. "Still glowing," Luca observed, looking at his own stone. "Across stars and species, a love unbound," Elliot murmured, the words echoing the profound bond they'd formed, not just with Mira but with Zaloria itself. As they left the auditorium, their steps were light, their hearts full. They knew this was only the beginning of a larger journey, one that they would continue together, guided by the knowledge and connections they'd forged in the vast, starry embrace of the cosmos.